All right. All right. All right. All right. It is Tuesday night. So on Tuesday, we talk whatever we want to talk about. Tonight we're talking bass. So, let me know if everybody can hear me. I'm not sure if I can hear myself or not. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. All right. So tonight, uh, hmm, surprise, nobody on yet. Maybe I'm too early. I'm like a minute early. So just give it a couple minutes to get everybody load up, load on. Tonight I want to talk about the biggest baits, the baits you use to catch the biggest fish. So a lot of that. Let's see. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, if you're watching, I got some questions, then let me know because we haven't really started yet. We'll give it a couple minutes for everybody to kind of jump on, and then we will start. This is like I said, this is Connery from out of work. Uh, Usually the Tuesday nights are a little slower just because we're talking about bass fishing. And I'd say most of our viewers are uh, striper guys. So it is a little quieter or more quieter on Tuesday nights, but Tuesday nights are probably the nights where we give away the best, the juiciest juice. Okay, so speaking of juiciest juice, actually Jake drinking some apple juice right now, so it's pretty good. Mm. But let's talk about it. Let's see. Public. All right. So just change some of the settings on the video, make it public so the public could come in. It was on private, so nobody could see it. So let's try that again. Okay. Start that again. So we got one guy, maybe two guys now. So the topic for tonight is going to be 90% of the giant bass are caught on these lures. And I truly feel like 95% of the bass can be caught on two lures or less. So basically, when I first started fishing bass fishing tournaments, when I first started fishing kayak tournaments, put it that way, we're just looking at the world of bass in general. There's a lot of like confusion as to what catches fish, what doesn't catch fish, and everything like that. But before you know it, everyone's just saying, hold on, let me move the mic. I think the mic's out of place. So here we go. I think the mic should sound a lot better now. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Yeah. So before before I really started diving or deep diving into big baits for big bass, we really looked at bass fishing as just a really pond fishing type thing, and I uh I didn't really care too much about it because I was so stuck in the striper world, and then my brother won a tournament on a frog, which is we're gonna mention here in a bit. And after that, I said, you know what, this bass fishing might be pretty fun. What do you think about the Sneaky Pete for striped bass? Sneaky Pete, I've heard of that. I've never used it. Let me Google it real quick and see what it is. Oh, it's a glide bait. Stripers are suckers for glide baits. So any glide bait is good with a striper. Put it that way. They'll bite anything. The thing is, I think that with the world of stripers, okay, so the striper baits are gonna fall into the bass category as well. But I feel like the stripers are not as smart as the largemouths and smallmouths because in the world of bass, they catch and release a lot. There was a study that said 99.2%, something like that. It's over 90%, definitely over 90% of the bass that were caught end up being released. And when you do that, I think they get conditioned. When they get conditioned, they get harder and harder and harder to catch, and then you have to either finesse them into biting, or you have to trick them somehow into biting. The world of striped bass usually I would say it's above 80%, you know, harvest rate. So we don't always get really smart stripers. Uh, Most of them are pretty dumb, to be honest. So glide bait stripers, glide baits for bass. Yep, pretty good. We're talking tonight. We're talking about like that, not the striper bass. Well, we can do that too. Striped bass, and we gotta do largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, right? But this kind of pertains to like the overall like if you want to catch a big fish, this is what you need to be throwing. And I think a lot of the high end lures catch them pretty good too, but they don't. You don't have to throw a lot of the high end lures, like the Sneaky Pete, Josh Burris just mentioned. It's like a $20 bait. You know, that's what I can find on. Well, it was like between $20 and $35 bait. It's not bad for a glide bait because typically glide baits go pretty expensive. They're like $75 or higher. But yeah, we're gonna talk big baits, not so big baits, and my favorite baits. Okay, so my personal best type stuff. Since tonight is more of a bass, like typical bass, not striped bass, but typical bass baits. We're gonna cover from that angle, and then we're gonna finish it off with the stripers, right? So for me, when I started fishing for bass, we didn't have a lot of resources to look into. So coming from the striper world, we knew that when we went striper fishing and we were throwing these big topwaters, we would get a bass to hit them. Okay, and a good sized bass too. Talking 18, 19-inch largemouth in a river system. That's a really good bass. And they were aggressive enough to hit a big topwater. So that topwater was always in the back of our heads. And in my first tournament, I brought out a big topwater, and I almost cooked. Okay, so there's a lot of that that's floating around. But I had a moment where I said, you know what, this big bass fishing, it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, it really shouldn't be that hard, and it shouldn't cost as much money and all this other stuff. And that moment was um, really like pounded into my head when I qualified for the national championship on Lake Fork, right? So you got this guy. It's like his second year in. He's done good enough to just barely sneak into this tournament in Lake Fork, right? And then my brother tells me, man, if you're gonna go to Lake Fork, that's the land of the giants. You gotta be prepared. You gotta be, all the above. And I said, you know what? I don't have a bait that is specifically designed for big bass because we're going to Lake Fork. Lake Fork is known for big bass, right? So we started thinking about it, and 3 weeks before we went, my brother Hua starts playing with a 10-inch worm. Okay, show you guys what the 10-inch worm looks like. Until this day, I still fish a 10-inch worm if I want a big bite. So this is a 10-inch worm, and it's not big for me right now because I've been throwing it for so many years. Right? See it? But for a lot of people, they will never throw a 10-inch worm. And for us, for me and my brother, this is getting to the like medium category now, right? So the 10-inch worm, I feel like it catches everything from a 12-inch bass all the way up to like a 10-pounder. Okay, so basically, what happened was I went to Lake Fork. I had a big worm tied on, and I was just flipping trees, and I was flipping these trees, and about there was this one tree that was about 10 foot of water. I flip in there, I'm bouncing it around on the roots, and I get bit and I catch a 15-incher. And I was so stoked because I did not skunk out, right? Then I went, and 4 or 5 trees later, I got a couple more bites. I keep setting the hook and I keep missing them because a lot of times when the little bass bites you, they actually don't take the whole thing. They actually kind of just come out and just kind of like, well, we're dragging it on the ground, so they might just pick up the tail and start running with it, right? And you set the hook, you miss the fish, and you might lose the tail, right? But I still remember this to this day too. I was not prepared for this bite. You go to Lake Fork, you're thinking you're gonna catch, a bunch of 18s and 19s, which is really rare on Lake Fork. Like I don't know that tournament, there was a lot of little fish. There wasn't a lot of big fish. But I get there and I flip in this tree, and this is like a dead tree. It's got a big trunk and stuff like that. There's a bunch of little trees behind it, and like I said, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere too. And I flip in there, and my worm never hits the bottom. It never hits the bottom. It's like a bottomless. You know what I'm talking about? When you flip in something and you kind of notice the worm fall and then it should hit the bottom. This thing never hit the bottom, or at least it didn't get to the bottom. Because this big old bass was sitting right next to the tree stump, and it bit it, and it never ran off. So I was checking it, and I was just kind of like, that feels weird. Usually I flip and then I have to strip off line twice before it gets to the bottom. I flip and then I strip once and I'm holding it and the line just stops. I'm thinking, it's either I got it hung up or something or somebody's got it. So I click the thing over and I'm checking it and I just barely feel it tick. Like it just barely moved and I set the hook. And this thing, it didn't even move. Okay, and I've never felt that before. So, long story short, I bought a 24-inch bass, a largemouth bass, which is the minimum on Lake Fork for you to keep because they're trying to grow, trophy lake. So I actually get one, and it was on a Zoom 10-inch worm. It wasn't actually this color, but just to show you guys an example, it was actually a really good color too, by the way. But it's a different color. It was called California 420, and I caught that. Like I said, I didn't know what I was doing. My rod and reel setup wasn't set up for a big bass, and all of those. The only thing I had going for me was I had 20-pound line on. That was the only thing that was going for me because my hooks were brand new. I had at the time I was using some owner hooks. I was on a 7-foot medium heavy, 13 fishing bait caster rod, and I think it was a diamond reel all the time. So I was fighting this thing, and it jumps up, and it jumps, and I'm just like, holy crap, this is definitely far north of my PB. Because up until that 24, my biggest one was probably just 18. So if you go from 18 to 24, it was a big jump, right? So I get into the boat, I'm still shaking, it gets in my net, and I'm still shaking, and then I take pictures of it. I take like 50 pictures of this fish, and then I release the fish. And I go back to these trees and start fishing them again, and I catch another one. That was a 21 and a half, but I caught on a crankbait. Okay. What's up, Chang? What's up, brother? All the way from Fresno, man. I used to live in Fresno, so I know where you're from. I actually know exactly where you're from. Thanks for coming on, man. We're just talking bass. We're talking big bass, and we're talking how to catch them, kind of lures, right? So this pack of worms. I mean, this is like 3 packs crammed into one, but it's cheap. It's like $3.99. You know, for like 10 of them. So do that. Get a 4/0 mustad grip pin offset hook, and put yourself a half-ounce tungsten worm hook on the front. You don't need to peg it, and that's it. 20-pound line, 22, 23, 24-pound line, or 65-pound braid, doesn't matter. Get yourself like a 7'3" to 7'6" medium heavy or heavy rod, fast gear ratio reel, 7, 8, or 9 gear ratio. You go to town, just throw it everywhere. Throw it everywhere. And I really mean to throw it everywhere too, because I won a lot of money on this thing, and yet nobody really talks about it. But it's all over the shelves. It's one of those baits where if you go to the Zoom section, you're bound. At least in Oklahoma, you're bound to see it. You go to the Bass Pro Shops, you go to the academies. There used to be a Gander Mountain here. There used to be a Dick's Sporting Goods. But when you go, the 10-inch worm is there. It's there for a reason. A lot of people don't talk about it, but I'm telling you, the 10-inch worm can be fished everywhere. It's deadliest on points, offshore points. It's deadliest in brush piles. You can just cast it to a random creek channel. You'll get bit. If you guys go back to the tournament that I won the Tuesday. We call it Tuesday nights, but it's the jackpot. It's the Oklahoma City Kayak Fishing Club. Their championship was held on Dripping Springs Lake. If you remember, if you go back, it's only like 10 videos back. In I think it was October, I won that tournament, and one of those key fishes came off the 10-inch worm. I think it was a purple worm too, so I was kind of flopping worms back and forth. So when it comes to picking colors, if the water's not very dingy, like muddy, the green pumpkin, California 420, good color. But that day seemed like it was just a little bit muddier than I'd like it, so I went to a purple one, like a dark purple. I was wanting black, but they don't make them in black, so I went to dark purple. And that's it. Like I said, chuck it everywhere. A lot of times, I think in the world of fishing, people make things too complicated, or they want to prove that a lure works, right? So there's a lot of advertising, there's a lot of things like that, which is kind of designed to catch you, and then instead of catching the fish. That's why a lot of times when all these new lures come out, all the old school guys start catching them again, because people kind of move away from, for example, the big worm here, and they go to like say a giant crankbait, or they go to a big, blade bait, or not blade bait, a big glide bait, or a just big, fish, big fish bait. Kind of like this. This is like the best example, right? The Huddleston. I'm not knocking the Huddleston. Right? Huddleston has its own track record. It has proved itself over and over through the years. Huddleston is established, right? And I'm not knocking the swim baits. But in order to throw that bait, you have to have specialized equipment. Yeah, you have to have like a $400 rod. It feels like that's what the swim bait industry is telling you. Get this $400 rod, get this $300 reel, and get this $30 swim bait, and don't snap it off on the cast. And when you catch this thing, it might jump, it might spit your hook anyways, because there's so much plastic here. There's so much plastic here. And for the most part, most of the guys that are throwing those guys are only catching 5 and 6 pounders, from what my ears hear, right? So if you're just catching 5 or 6 pounders, take out your regular rod and reel and just throw this on points. And during the spawn, during the summer, it doesn't matter, during the fall. And you're going to catch those same 5 and 6 pounders. And when you get lucky, kind of like the Huddleston, once a year you might get your shot at a 10 pounder. And that's just the reality of it. And I know a lot of people are going to kind of hate me for saying that, but that's the truth, though. If you think about it like that, man, it's hard to like not see that, because I'm a guy that kind of sees not. I'm trying not to be very tunnel vision. I always try to fish very like wide open, and I always seem to do better when I fish wide open, when I have a relaxed mindset going in a tournament where I'm kind of like, I might have only one lure and it's his worm. So what I'll do is I'll just basically throw it everywhere as fast as I can, everywhere. shallow, deep, super deep, all the brush piles in between. Get a little pattern going, and then I'll expand from there. Right. So I'm a big worm guy. I used to be really big on the worms. The first 3 years of just tournament bass fishing or even fun fishing, the 10-inch worm was rigged at all times. And I never threw a shaky head. I never threw a Senko coming into the bass fishing world. I like completely hopped over that stage, you know? So um, I'm built backwards. Let's put it that way. For me and my brother, we came into the bass fishing world using the frog, using a top water, using a square bill, and then the next one was a 10-inch worm. Those are my gateway drugs, if you want to say that, because we fish a lot of ponds, right? Well, I would say a lot. We fish the neighborhood pond, which was stocked by our neighbor. He's got like 5 and 6 pounders in there, right? And if you're not on a big braid, they're gonna always break you off. So we started off with throwing frogs, and they love frogs. So we always start out with frogs, and we started fishing tournaments. We used to, 10, 15 years ago, before we started fishing, we used to fish in Massachusetts, and we threw the banjo minnow, and we threw that thing. That thing was so awesome. The banjo minnow, I don't care what people are telling you about it. It works. For us, it worked. It worked good. Caught everything. So for us, it was banjo minnow, frogs, and then flukes, right? That's still flukes to this day, too. But we don't use them as much. There's moments where you can use a fluke, and the fluke is still really deadly at the right moment. It's just overthrow. Everybody throws the flukes, right? But the 10-inch worm, it feels like it's, I don't know, maybe it's an old school thing. Nobody really talks about it, but all those new guys come in, and we don't know about the 10-inch worm. And even to today, I'm still learning different ways on fishing with 10-inch worm. So with the 10-inch worm, I like to fish offshore with it. But I've seen these old school guys, they flip with it. Kind of like what I did on Fork. You flip targets with it. And you're going to get a lot of misses because as the bait's falling, you tend to just bite the worm, but bite the tail of the worm. But if it's a big fish, it'll suck it up, and you're not going to miss it. Anything 18 inches and over, they're not going to miss this little bait. But I do really, really well, like I said, offshore brush piles. You use some electronics to find that. But then you get into those moments where you're kayak fishing and on a fun day, of course, and then you start seeing all these old school guys. I'm talking like they're in their 50s, right? So they're old school compared to me. I'm like 35, I'm around 35, and you see them like throwing big worms into the grass, and you're just kind of like, why would you ever throw a big worm into the grass? Why would you ever do that? So a lot of times I like to observe people fish too. So I'm always a student of the game, right? So I go up, I power pole down, and I'm still fishing. I don't want to be like spying on people and shit, but I'm kind of like looking at them, stalking them from a distance, looking at them corner of my eye. I'm still fishing, kind of keeping tabs on everybody, And then you see them catch fish with it, and you're thinking, why would you throw a ditch worm into grass when you got a swim jig, you got a frog, you got a fluke, you got flipping and pitching stuff, you got a chatterbait? It's so good. Why would you throw a worm? Like, especially offshore grass, right? All that offshore grass that's 6 foot deep and it's like 3 foot. It's almost topping out. It's not topping out yet. And people would go and throw big worms in it. I'm thinking, why would you do that? I don't know. But there, hey, check it out. Right? One moment, I actually tried that one time. So I saw this one guy doing it, right? And then I was like, holy crap, I'm gonna do it too. I was gonna do it too. So I actually went out, and this is one lake we fish. I never rigged a 10-inch worm for this one lake. So I actually go out there rigged with a 10-inch worm one time, and so I fished this. This is a spot, right? It's an offshore spot. It's a community hole, right? I go out there. I want to be the first one. I want to be the first one. So I'm the first one up there. I throw a frog, and if you don't have good electronics, you have no idea this spot is even there. If you have good electronics, oh my gosh, this is like the best spot in the lake. But it's a community hole. So I get there. It's not that deep. It's like 5.5 foot. I power pole down. My power pole barely touched the ground, but I'm on it. I'm on it, right? So I throw this frog, hollow belly frog, and I throw it out there. and I just let it sit. Like I walk it and let it sit because I just know there's giants like 3-4 feet below it. I'm just trying to call them to the top to blow up on it. So then I'm walking it. And 2 cows there, I get a blow up. It's a big one. It's like a 21.5. So I'm super stoked, right? And I measure it. It's for an online tournament. I measure it. And I start throwing it again, but the bite kind of died down because the sun's coming up, right? I'm the first guy to the spot. And then I throw a chatterbait. I catch a bunch of 17, 18 inchers. And then I'm just like, okay, well, I don't want to leave yet. I feel like there's a big one here still. You know what I'm talking about? You get that gut feeling, you know? And you're kind of like, yeah, there's got to be another one. I mean, how are you going to catch a 21.5 and then a bunch of 17s, 18s, 19s in the mix? But, you know, when we fish online, if you're not catching 20s, you're not going to place the top 5. So I go out. I'm thinking, like, man, that's got to be a big one, right? So I throw my worm out there. I start just fan casting. I just randomly fan casting, too. And I get bit on one, and I break her off. But it was a big fish. Like, it was a big one. It was a big one. And from that moment on, I was a worm believer in the grass. Okay, it's weird. It's one of those weird things. But I have 10-inch worm. It goes through the grass really good too. It's just one of those things where, if you look at the profile of worm, once you put a little weight on the front, like cut right here, there is nothing to hang up. There is nothing to hang up in the grass. That's probably why that old guy is throwing it in the grass. I never understood that. I always wanted to throw like something with appendages and stuff. Little did I know, you need to follow it up with a big worm before you go. So I figured a big worm in the grass is like, it's like a snake in the grass. And fish are really used to eat snakes. Yep. Yep. 10-inch worm, man. If you're flipping 10-inch worm in the brush, you're an old school guy. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say about 10-inch worm. But like I said, once again, 10-inch worm kind of goes in and out for me, but it's a very affordable big bass lure. It's very affordable. People don't give it enough credit in terms of big bass. But I would imagine before all these big Huddleston, big A-rigs, before all that came out, I'm talking like 70s, 80s, early 90s. This was probably the world's big fish catcher. Okay, and I don't have proof of that. I'm just gonna put it out there. So let me know if I'm 100% wrong or if I'm 100% right. I don't know if anybody's old enough in this room. There's like 18, 20 guys in here. But if you know for a fact, you know, before anybody started promoting big stuff. Oh man, who's this guy? I think we got a surprise coming too. So he's here tonight. And we're talking about 10-inch worms, and we'll get to his stuff in a little bit. But 10-inch worms, man, this is the one I like too. I mean, just because I have no other choice, this is the first one I bought, so it kind of has sentimental value to me. I won probably over $1,000 in like straight money with this. So yeah, 10-inch worm, man. Like I said, there's 2 go-to colors for me. I like that black and blue, which is universal. I prefer straight black. That and California 420. And that's it. Keep it simple. 2 colors. The weight is 95% of the times it's a 1/2 ounce tungsten. And the hook that I throw is the Mustad grip pin 4/0. And that's it. Keep it simple like that. Just throw it everywhere. Brush piles, the bank, grass, brush pile, the bank, grass, and brush piles, bank, and grass all over. Just do it everywhere, throw it everywhere. And like I said, it catches everything from small fish to giant fish. So this is the other guy. He usually doesn't come over on Tuesdays, but we got something special for you guys tonight. All the guys that are listening, just mentioning this, and you'll probably get first dibs on what we're about to release. But yeah, the worm is universal. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've crushed a lot of people's feelings on worm too. It's sad.
Yeah, it's one of my number one, like cashing a check bait too.
Yeah. So like, if when it comes to offshore structure fishing, the big worm is like top 3, like for me, and it pulls through. Like it always, like when nobody's talking about it, it's probably at its deadliest. People always telling you throw the big worm on points, during the post spawn, right? But I always do better in the fall with it.
I do it during the spawn too.
Yeah, during the spawn too. And I don't know why, but it just freaking works.
It works all year.
Yeah.
It's just
You caught them in the wintertime?
Yeah, I caught one flipping a tree in 43-degree water.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. This is the cool thing about this. Everybody is also saying big words, flipping trees. All right, so that's kind of my first one. The second one.
Hey.
I didn't have to. We're just talking stuff. But this is probably my second one, right? It's already, see, this is where it's still rigged. I just took that straight out of my tackle box, right? This is the hook I was telling you guys about. If you guys want to know about this hook, then I have a video about this too, my top 5 hooks. This is the Mustang grip pin I was talking about. It's got the little keeper on here that I really like. Kind of like that. You can see it. Yeah, it's got the lead keeper, so the bait doesn't slide down. It actually gets stuck there. And you just expose it. Yeah, just like that. Goes to the top and punch it back in. Kind of like that. And turn the little arms off. The arms are like this. I tear them off because I imagine in the water every time I pull it, the arms are kind of like do this thing. And then the rest of the thing, I don't do anything. But sometimes I do dip the tail in blue. But this is my other big bass bait. I've actually caught a lot of big fish on this too. Same thing, Texas bait. Same thing, same set as worm. Sometimes I'll go out and I'll have this rigged up, and if I feel like they don't want to chase this, then I'll switch to the worm. Or if I want to, like, say, do something a little different after I throw the worm, and I kind of have a feeling there's still some bait or bass in the general area, then I'll throw this guy out. And there's a lot of times where, especially the water's a little dingy. I think the worm is there's not enough action on the worm, and you need something with a lot more movement in the water. They can throw this, and this works really, really good. It's just a whole bunch of appendages. It's just coming through a big bass's area. It's just like notices it, and it just comes over and it picks it up. And when they pick that up, it's never the worm. See the difference between this bite and the worm. The worm bite, a lot of times sometimes you don't even feel the bite. Like you reel it, and all of a sudden it just picks up, and then it just kind of walks away. With the brush hog, well, I forgot to tell you guys this is actually, it's called a brush hog from Zoom. This is full size too. So when this guy gets hit, it's always like a jig bite. It's always a big thump. It's never like a tick 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 and runs off with it. If it's a tick 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 tick, don't even throw it. That's like bluegills or something. Right. So those are kind of my top 2 when it comes to like the cheaper baits, right? When it comes to cheap baits, that's what I like. This is the stuff where you can go through a pack of it a day. You can burn about $20. I think probably $20 is on the high end for using plastics, and except for the tungsten. The tungsten's pretty expensive, but you can always step it down with lead, and it'll be pretty cheap. But if you haven't thrown a worm big in 5 years, you gotta get back on it, because that big worm. This is a small worm too. Get on that 12-inch worm, and when you get to the 12-inch worm, nothing under 18 will bite it. The difference between the 10-inch worm and the 12-inch worm, people think it's just that much, but it's actually not that. It's actually like going from a worm this size to like a worm this size. So there is a big difference in the girth. And I throw the 12 a lot when I really need that big bite to win an online tournament. And when you throw the 12, well, I feel like it's like throwing the Huddleston, right? You go for the whole day, you might get 1 bite. When you throw the 10, you go the whole day, you might get 6 or 7 bites, or more, depending on the day, right? But that's really my top 2 for the big bass. And we just want to talk about also where to throw it, because a lot of guys, they've never thrown anything like this before. They look at this, they get scared, right? Where do you even throw it? Especially if you don't have electronics. If you have electronics, go find creek swings, go find brush piles, lay downs, just throw it in there, let it soak. That's the other thing too. I'm not really a patient person when it comes to fishing, so I'll throw it in there. I always try to catch the most aggressive bass, but this guy is pretty patient. Like he'll let a worm soak, and I can't do that.
1 cast could be 3 minutes.
Yeah, 1 cast could be 3 minutes, and you figure a tree is only maybe 5 foot wide, and your worm's only like moving a little bit at a time. And he's caught him real good doing that too. where I've caught all the aggressive fish. I throw it in there, I drag right by, and I'll bite it, and, or you know he'll just still maybe he's just wiggling his worm all the time in the same spot. But for the guys that don't have electronics, where do you think they should throw the big one?
Anywhere. I just go down the bank and I'll just throw it like most people throw a Texas break. Throw it down, drag it next 5 feet to the right,
Yeah.
drag it another next 5 feet to the right. I like to throw it a lot more on points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if there's kind of like a low, I mean, you throw it, you can feel the rocks, just kind of throw it there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you don't have fish finders, you could pull up a map and just kind of throw it on like island tops or underwater points, long tapering points. But usually at the end of that is usually a hard spot or like a gravel spot going to a drop off, and fish should be there. I usually just throw them those stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a great bait for you get to a general area and you're like, this just looks good, right? I'm just gonna throw here, 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 here. You just fan cast an entire area. It's a really good bait for that, especially where you feel like, especially if there's a lot of like underwater like rock, not like rock you get hung up on, but just like hard bottom or like some people call it a shell rock. Well, yeah, shell bars and stuff like that.
Shelf rock.
Yeah, it's really good for that.
Even through like mussels. Or,
Yep. And if you have a tungsten weight on there, even if you don't have any electronics, I can tell you, it feels really good too, right? It feels it real. If you feel the bottom real good, and then you can feel the bite, and that's the best part.
Well, a lot of the guys they like to do like bass jigs. Mm-hmm. So for me, I hate throwing jigs. I just hate the weight. Cause you throw it out there, you wait like 15 seconds before it hit the bottom, maybe like 20 foot of water. I just like the worm because you throw it out there and like 4 seconds is on the bottom.
Yeah, it sinks really fast.
So just throw it anywhere you throw a jig. It's just they'll probably come through a lot more covered than your jig.
It does. That's the thing. It doesn't get hung up as much.
Yeah, like rough walls. You can just throw it up there, kind of just hop it off, keep tension on your line, just like throwing a jig. Mm-hmm. Same retrieve. I mean, throw it out there, just hop it along. I usually drag it, but if you're getting hung up too much, just do baby hops, like hop, hop, hop.
That's what I do.
Hop, hop, hop.
That's my secret. I baby hop a lot.
And then you could stroke it too. I mean, just like stroking a jig, that will stroke it and then reel up the slack and stroke it.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people might be wondering, like, all these tips of what have we accomplished with this, right? So I kind of mentioned a little bit. We won a couple. He's won a couple Angler of the Year titles. I won a state title, and you won another state title. So this is a pretty good knowledge coming to you. So it's backed by those titles if you want the credentials.
6-inch.
I think so. I think that's a 6-inch. Looks like something.
Yeah, it's just
It's the original one. Put it that way. And it's the, what do you call it? Watermelon red? Right? Yeah, watermelon red flake.
Red, black.
It's like the most common one. You can't miss it. Every store should carry it. Walmart probably carries it for the best price too, probably. But so if your lake is barren and you don't have anything on the bank, then just go to the points and just start dragging. You'll catch them. If your lake has a lot of standing timber, flip it. It's really good. If your lake has a lot of like swings, fish the bluff walls or the points or the flat stuff. It doesn't matter. This bait can pretty much do anything, So, and it is a bigger bait too. So a lot of the little fish tend not to bite it. But I have caught a lot of 12-inch spotted bass with it. Like the 10-inch worm is ridiculous. I don't know what it is, but the spotted bass, they can't leave it alone. So that's, for all the guys that are starting out, because I think this video is going to go to all those guys. With all the guys that are starting out, tournament fishing, you need a bait that could catch big fish and catch small fish at the same time. And I feel like the worm is probably the best one for it because it doesn't require a lot of skill to learn how to fish a worm compared to like a chatterbait. Chatterbait is the same thing. It can catch small fish and big fish, but I feel like a chatterbait, you have to have like a good understanding of what you're trying to do. Like like the whole ripping it out of grass. The reason why you want to rip it, and then you have to balance that with rods and reels and all that sort of stuff. It gets kind of complicated. But with a worm, you can fish on any gear ratio as long as your rod is probably, like I said, I'd really like at least a 7'3" medium heavy or even heavy, and you're good to go. Just put some big line on it, 20-pound line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
16 to 20.
yeah, 16 20, and half ounce weight and a 4-aught hook, and that's pretty much as simple as you can get when you're trying to catch big fish.
Yeah, it catches fish in dirty water
Yeah.
and in clear water.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter much, and it just stays there. A lot of times I think that's the reason why it catches a lot of big bass. I feel like the bigger the bass, the lazier it gets. So he doesn't want to chase very far. It wants to ambush, but it also wants to stay kind of close. So if you're dragging it and you're filling some rocks, you're filling some trees, or a real thick clump of grass or something, there might be a big bass close by. You just want to kind of like wiggle it in the area, kind of like give itself away, and then the big bass give it like 2 seconds and come in and pick it up.
So what I do a lot is, if you're on a lake with like flooded timber, look for the biggest tree and you throw it right past it, and then try to knock the roots of that big tree. Because usually that's the bottom of the creek channel where the creek channel is at, and then it has a big root system for that big tree, right? So if it's washed out, those roots is like kind of like a brush pile, so the big fish will be on those stumps or on those roots of that big tree.
Yeah.
I mean, guys do that on Lake Fork, so
That's how I thought.
that's what I usually do. I just throw it past it, let it hit bottom, drag it to that, and then sometimes I'll knock those roots, like just shake it, let that tungsten weight knock the root. And you could pretty much feel like knock, and then you just let your line go back down and just kind of dead stick it for like 2 seconds, and then do that again, and then you can come over, or do it a couple times before you come over.
I do it the other way. I cast. I flip right to it, let it fall all the way down, and hop back, and then I'll cast past it, and I still bring it back pretty quick. And then my third cast, I might bring it to like what I would think is the biggest limb or root, and I bring it up, I hit it, and I drop it back down. I hit it, and I drop it back down. I hit it, and I drop it back down. And sometimes when you hit it, and you drop it back down, the tungsten never hits the bottom.
Yeah.
And they got it. They're just waiting for you to mess it up or something. And then we catch a lot of fish like that. But don't get me wrong, you do break off a lot too. Because I don't know what actually happens, but I think sometimes the fish, like, it bites you and it takes off, and it like gets you hung up in between the roots, and you lose some fish. But at the same time, when you lose something like this, it's not expensive. It's only, even if you go the tungsten route, it's probably just like $5. You lost $5. If you're throwing anything else, and that's like things like that, anything else like a Huddleston or a big, even a bag draft, that's pretty expensive, $10 roughly. So you're talking cost wise, is there bag draft's not even as weedless and everything like that. So as a new guy coming in, 10-inch worm for big fish is a must have. You gotta have it. I've even told people, if you want to catch fish, just take the 10-inch worm, just throw it everywhere. You'll catch it big.
And then guys that have been fishing with us, now they start throwing it because they know that, like, every single time we come back, it's like, hey, what'd you guys catch your fish on, big worm? Now everybody's like, kind of have it in their bag.
Yeah, everybody carries a little like package with them every time.
It's like, I can't catch those big fish, but they'll start throwing it, and then you just start catching big fish. Because that's why I threw it. Because I was getting my ass handed to me.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's why I started throwing it.
And lots of tournaments are won on it. People just won't tell you. That's the thing about it. They fish it deep too. That's the other thing. All the way down to 20, 25 foot.
Yeah, when I went to California, I fished it down to 35 foot.
Yeah, so you just gotta be patient. Just gotta slow drag it because the worm can flow a little bit. But yeah, the worm, the brush hog, I keep saying worm, but it's interchangeable, right? The price is about the same. The hardware is exactly the same. And like I said, sometimes they don't want the worm. They want something with more action. And you just switch, you literally just pull it off the hook, you don't want to cast it back out. And there's been days where, they want the worm more. There's been days where they want the brush hog more. But on the days where they want the brush hog, it's really easy fishing. You kind of throw it in the general area, they come and they get it. It's like they're super aggressive that day. So that's so basically the worm and the brush hog. Like I said, man, this video is 90% of the big fish are caught on these baits, and I still believe it. You know, not only are they caught on it, people have to throw them in order to be successful. So to find Huddleston's, find all these other brands, which I love, uh, it's hard to get because sometimes, and actually most of the time, it's on back order. You can't find it, you know. But the worm always seems like it's in stock, the big worms, you know, or at least you can easily find it on an online retailer. Um, that's always a good thing. The next thing I was going to talk about is this is kind of a new school thing, right? And it's going to be the Alabama Ravens, right? Ever since this thing came out, from about November to March, that's all you hear about. Big bass in Alabama Ravens. Period. Like everything, like you notice this too. The past 3 weeks, right? Every single like YouTube video with a 10-pound bass or bigger, guess what it was called? Alabama Ravens. That's right. Yeah, every single one that I've seen was Alabama Ravens of some kind. Either they're throwing like a 5-wire, a 7-wire, a 9-wire, whatever wire, but it still falls in the category of like Alabama Ravens. And it's all swim baits, right? Either running Kitex or 6 cents or the other Kitex or a Bass Pro imitation or a knockoff somewhere. It's all swim baits. Like, even we kind of proved it. It's a swim bait fight. We threw everything else and nothing. That video is coming out on Saturday. So on Saturday, be sure to see. It's a hybrid video, but it's basically the same thing. You threw a jerk bait the whole day, basically?
Mm-hmm. Caught a drum.
Caught a drum. And then you were fishing the same areas that me and Sai was fishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have the jerk bait tuned perfect to what you think should work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had slow sinking down to 8 foot above the fish. They didn't come up for it.
Yeah, they didn't come up for it. But guess what? We threw 2 A-rigs at them all the whole time. Caught 2 out of that pack. So that kind of has some saying, right? So the A-rig. You sure the A-rig? Where's my A-rig at?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the one right there. Oh, let me get the better one. The one that's already dressed.
Right there.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Let's see. Alright, so this is kind of a special edition A-rig, but if you guys don't know, there's this one. Are there any middle ones in there? I don't know the middle one. This is kind of like the this is Hua's version. Hua builds this one. We don't have a name for it yet. It's not the out of work rig, okay? So I don't say that. It's the Hua's rig. But this is a concept that basically, you know, why would you throw one swim bait? You know, one swim bait when you can throw an entire school of swim baits, right? This is probably like the most trippiest thing the bass has ever seen. You know, when it comes to like fishing lures, and since it's so new, they don't know what to do with it, so they come and they check it out. And the only way they can check it out is to bite it. Well, if they bite it, you got 5 hooks on these guys. So the A-rig works all year round. It's just right now it just seems to work the best because they don't move a lot, and you can see them on like the live technology, so you can cast towards them, and it feels like they don't get spook as easy right now.
Yeah, they're suspended most of the time, so they're not really moving much.
Yeah, so A-rigs, and I don't even know why I'm like preaching this, but there's a lot of people that still don't throw it, and I was kind of on the fence about it for the longest time too. Because this is the only reason why you should like invest in new equipment, because your traditional rods may or may not be beefy enough to throw something like this, right? Maybe you could, right? You're like 7 foot or 8 foot flipping sticks would probably throw this. But you kind of want the more powerful bit.
Yeah, you want a softer tip.
You want a softer tip to throw this, but this basically has changed the world of bass fishing. It really has, and you know it works because it's been banned.
Even in Minnesota.
Even in Minnesota?
Yeah.
What?
You can't throw A-rigs in Minnesota by Jerry Moore.
Man. Not even like the one with the fake baits, but only the trailer in the back that has a hook on it. You can't even do that. Because in Oklahoma, they don't care. You can run. I checked the rules and regulations. They don't care. You can run. You can run the A rig, another A rig, and another A rig on the bottom.
It's unlimited.
It's unlimited in Oklahoma. But yeah, it works so good that tournament fishing is banned.
The big ones, yeah. The big leagues.
The big leagues. Yeah. It's pretty cool though. This one's already been in like our two of our videos. Yeah. That's kind of twisty, you know. Probably fishing at one time. Sorry to you. But yeah, the A rig, man. The A rig's crazy. Ever since that one guy, what's his name? Paul Elias won like 3 tournaments back to back, right? And they were small tournaments. I think they were like $100,000 tournaments too.
Yeah, I fished on, I think, Gunners though.
I know. He won 2, and his buddy won the 3rd one. But like back to back to back weekends, that shit just blew up the whole world, basically.
2 hooks? You can still run 2 hooks, just run a lot of dummies. So. Most of the time, the fish hits the one in the back anyway.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they hit the one in the back.
Yep.
And then one of the bottom 2. So usually they hit this one.
Yep.
And we're one of these 2.
The back is always dependable though. I had a rig one time where I have 4 dummies and only one in the back because I was getting hung up too much. I didn't want to get hung up that bad, so I just did that, and it worked just fine too. You'll miss like 1 out of every 5 fish. You'll still bite something else, but the key to that is you have to have the dummy one like way farther back. Like way farther back, maybe like another like 4 inches back.
I mean 4?
No, back. I call it back.
The dummies?
Yeah. No. You know what?
You said the dummies.
That's the dummies. Not bad. I'm talking the center one. So you know this one's kind of the same, So when he comes up at it, you might be like, "I'll take this one." You know. Mm-hmm. But if this guy was say like this was like way up right here like this, right? Say like you like this. He comes up, you're like, I get this one. Yeah. So you know, like 4 inches of difference means a lot. So, yeah, A-rigs, man. A-rigs work so good on everything. It just works so good on everything. It's just one of those, like, if you're a banjo minnow guy, you'll know what I mean when I say genetic response, right? Because they can't help it. Like, they'll have to eat a dying fish, hence you don't see, like, dying fish anywhere. It's all get eaten. And then when a big bait ball comes by, when the bait ball's not supposed to be there because I've been chasing this bait ball the whole night and I've given up, and all of a sudden a bait ball comes back and says, I'm going to chase it one more time, right? Go and hit it, basically. So, yeah. The A-rig is pretty good. The umbrella rig is probably the best if you control. Because Coley said he caught a big one. He lost it. And it was like the biggest fish, biggest bass story I've ever heard on SkyTube. He was trolling on a striper umbrella rig. Yeah.
What you could do is you could put all blades and then just run one bait. It will work the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you go back and look at like the Mustad, go pretty far back, right? This is a striper we're talking about, but that biggest like striper ever caught was caught in the bow shoals on that A-rig. Mm-hmm. But the A-rig only had one bait. It was the main bait on the back, but it had 4 giant blades on it, and that guy caught it. And then Mustad said, "Hey, that's not our hook, or it can't be a multi-arm rig."
So the story about that was this is the year when Mustad was doing win $1 million sweepstakes. Like if you caught a fish on a Mustad hook, and it got certified by the IGFA, whatever it was called, the world people that keeps the records, right? If you got a fish certified at the state level, it was 100,000.
Yeah.
If it was a world record, it was $1 million, right? So the controversy was this guy caught this fish, and no doubt, like him blew the record away by like 5 pounds, right? It was a striper in fresh water, right? So this fish was caught on a Mustad hook, on an A-rig, umbrella rig, Alabama rig. And if you think about it, it broke the state record and it broke the freshwater record, right? But don't get me wrong, he got those records, right? But he couldn't claim the prize because, well, he didn't get the record, okay? But everybody knows he caught it.
Yeah,
right?
everybody know he won.
The IGFA would not certify it because it was caught on a spreader bar, is what they called it. Which is, if you guys understand what spreader bars are, they're used for the ocean. They troll for like tuna and stuff. And it's not a spreader bar, but they ruled it under a spreader bar, so therefore they did not give him the record.
Called it the multi-arm.
They called it, yeah. So I feel bad for that guy. I really feel bad for that guy.
And then after that, Mustad put that challenge down.
Yeah.
Which means that, hey, he technically won,
Yeah.
you know?
Technically, he won.
They had they even had like channel cat, bass, smallmouth, largemouth, striper. They had all those categories on there, you know?
It was just about every single fish.
Yeah.
Every single sports fish was listed.
Yeah, and then they kind of just put that challenge down because they know they kind of lost that.
Well, basically, that year, if you were a big baits guy, you better be throwing the Mustad hook. Because if you caught a state record and certified it, you won $100,000.
Yeah.
If you want, you gotta figure all the guys in Lake B want to be throwing Mustads with the Lions, right? $1 million? What? Damn.
Yeah, but
Woo. Tell you, that's crazy.
it was tough.
Yeah, it was tough. But there was that year, the striper was denied, but I think there was another guy that actually claimed $100,000 for the state record. It was like a walleye or something.
Yeah, but he should have won.
This guy is
That
the
guy
only
should have just won,
Oh.
man. Yeah. It was just too big of controversy. So they took that challenge down.
Yep. Jackhammer money bait. Jackhammer is a money bait. But I feel like the jackhammer's on borderline because you could easily get a snag. You can't flip it into the trees. Trust me, I tried. I've lost it. I've never lost it, but I've spoiled so many fishing spots because I flipped the jackhammer in there and got hung up on the trees and stuff. But the jackhammer did put out a lot of big fish for me, though. If you look at my history of big fish, 24 was caught on a worm.
My career first caught on a jackhammer.
That's right, jackhammer. But like I said, the jackhammer, it's almost like throwing like the A-rig now. You have to have like the rod and line has to be kind of balanced. Otherwise the jackhammer is probably going to be very frustrating for you because it's not a chuck and line bait like the A-rig, right? Once you get the equipment, you chuck and you just line it, and they bite it, and you just have the worm is basically the same. You chuck, you line real slow, stop it, real slow, stop it. The jackhammer, you could do that too, but I don't think you'd catch it. Like, have you ever caught a big, large worm just burning it?
No.
You never, right? So see, that's like the next step. You have to learn. You have to know what your bait is doing. Like you have to kind of almost like forecast it. Like, oh, it's hopping over rocks, or I just ripped through some grass. So I should expect a bite in like half a second. Things like this. There's more tuned into it. That's kind of advanced. This is maybe for like another video. Advanced bass fishing, but for tonight, we're just gonna focus on big baits for the new guys, and they're definitely catching big fish, right? So that's really why I picked the worm, and I picked the brush hog, and I picked the A-rig. A-rig is very expensive, but most people have caught their personal bests on the A-rig, using some type of A-rig, and it catches everything too. Anything that chases bait is gonna eat the A-rig. So the same A-rig we throw for stripers, we throw for largemouths, smallmouths, everything. And that's the cool part about it, the A-rig. Because the A-rig bite it's one of those stupid bites. Like, you'll see in our video that's coming out on Saturday, you just see me like chuck it, and I'm just whining it, and I just get bit. And I just set the hook real hard. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
It has a big drawing, like the A-rig itself draws fish. It's almost like a glide bait. Or a jerk bait. It has some baits have drawing power, so that bait itself will pull fish out of the depths to come hit it.
Yeah.
Or if it comes close to them, they'll come look at it and then they'll check it out with their mouth. Yeah.
All right, coming up on 1 hour. So, you want to talk about your rigs a little bit? It might be on sale or not on sale before we
So,
questions. Yeah, all the jackhammer questions, we're going to leave that towards the end of the. Usually, for the guys that have never been here before, we talk our topic for the night, and then we end the last 15 minutes with just open-ended questions. So all the, all the, all the crap about Minnesota sucks because they only allow 2 minutes. We'll talk about that in a bit. The jackhammer was $15. Do you throw Z-Man stuff, marshmallow baits and guys? Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But anyways, a lot of people have been waiting on this drop. Mark D is already on the list for these guys, but this is something where we thought of what we needed because we fish in lakes that are super competitive and we need like an edge, right, over the competition. So it was stuck around one night and it was kind of like I kind of want to build this, and we are kind of in our heads together and then came up with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what we got here is these are the bass finesse rigs. Therefore, I mean, we catch striper and hybrids on them too. They will hold up to them.
Yep.
But these are built for your 2.8 and 3.8, 2.8 and 3.3 Kitex, like the small 3-inch swim baits. Not built for the big size yet.
This is the big one.
So this is your typical.
Yeah, this is the striper.
Yeah, that's the striper rig. This is the bass finesse rig, and then this is the one without blades.
Blades without blades.
Blades and without blades.
So we're doing a drop tonight. First come, first serve. If you mention this video, we'll bump you up in the line. Okay, so that's what this video is for. So let us know.
I only got 8 of these today. I only got. I didn't make enough of these, but more will come on the way. The one with blades are for $45 and $5 shipping, so $50 ship.
Yep.
And then the one without blades, like this one, I have 20 of these. And these, I throw these on a clear day, super clear water, no wind kind of day. I throw without blades. These are going for $35 because less hard work. You know, you're pretty much paying for the hard work. They don't come with split rings because I don't want to put cheap split rings from eBay or something on these. I don't want your split ring to bend out on your 10-pounder that you catch. So you have to go buy like quality like Spro split rings or owner split rings that won't open up on you.
The other thing is, let me give you back up 2 steps and just talk about why we even came up with this and the concept behind it and why everything that's on the market, it felt like it was either 1, it was real cheap, or 2, they didn't design it right. You know what I mean? So when you're throwing like a single bait, only the bait the fish can see, right? Then it goes to your line. It's like invisible. It doesn't matter if it's fluorocarbon or braid or monofilament. If you look at the appearance of the bait, the fish sees the bait swimming, so it keys in on that bait, right? But you know how you throw a spinnerbait sometimes, and I feel like the bass comes in on the flash, but it doesn't know what to do, so it kind of just swims away because it kind of gets confused, right? Like, what is this? What is this? Kind of confusing. That's the idea I got when I looked at a regular Alabama rig that's got metal wires and there's like so many swivel. There's got a bunch of like D clips and the centerpiece is piece of lead is big. And you look at that, it reminds me of a spinnerbait. I'm not a big spinnerbait fan. Right? I hardly ever throw spinnerbaits because of that. So when you're looking at it, it doesn't look very natural, and especially if you put the smaller baits on it, it doesn't look even worse. Right, so when I was talking to him, I was like, "Hey, look, we could probably, I would throw a spinnerbait if the arm was visible, right? And that's why I'm such a big guy on the chatterbait, the jackhammer, is because when you look at a jackhammer, it's a very complete package, right? You look at a spinnerbait, it's like 3 targets. The fish can hit any one of them, and you just hope that it hits the one with the hook. Because I fished a lot of spinnerbaits where I can see the fish actually. They come up and they bite the blade, but the hook just happens to be there. So you hook them like underneath the jaw. You know, like that bass, it didn't attack the bait, it attacked the blade, right? So I was thinking that like you have to hit something so that the fish comes up and is not distracted by anything else. It comes up and it looks at the bait and it just really hits the bait. And that's what you want to do. So we were talking about it, and then I was just like, man, that'd be so cool if this was clear, right? The whole arm system was clear. And on top of that, when you pull it through the water, the traditional metal rig, it's not alive. It doesn't do this. Like I'll show you.
Yeah, it stays in one motion.
Yeah, it doesn't do this. So if you look at this, it is moving. Everything's moving. Everything is moving real good. The traditional one, like only the baits move. It's very fixed. Everything is very, very fixed. So I was like, if we can design something like that, I think we could take these local boys, So it's all right. So we designed it, we built it, and now we're making super limited for anybody who wants it. And the prices are high because this is fluorocarbon, and it's very, very expensive. And like I said, it takes a lot of time to build it to our spec, right? Because I was telling you guys before, I felt like a lot of the A-rigs on the market, either one, it wasn't designed right, or two, they were using cheap components. So when you look at this, it's like you don't have any like rings, you don't have anything on it. So when you put a bait on it, it just looks like this. Let's see that, but like there's almost no hardware. And when you put this in the water, the rib, this whole thing, like it disappears in the water too. So when the fish looks at it, all it sees is flash, and it might think that's a shad, and then it sees 5 big targets, and it comes up and it gets it a lot of times. So I hope that helps you guys. I mean, it's not a cheap bait at all. Don't get me wrong, it's not cheap, and I don't think it will ever be cheap because of that design. Like if you design a Ferrari, it's never going to cost the same price as a Toyota. For the most part,
And I hand crimped these one by one.
Yes, these are built in his kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not made in China or like that, so hence why it's expensive.
Yeah, they take about probably 3 days to put one out. I mean, I gotta pour it, then I gotta let it sit, and then I gotta line them up, crimp them, put all this stuff on there, and then.
So how do they reach you if they want to buy one?
They could either message us through our Facebook page, or they could just message me directly on my Facebook page.
Yeah. Okay.
Just type in Kua Hybrid Killer Show. I'm pretty sure I'll pop up.
Yeah.
Because I put my middle name, Hybrid Killer.
Yep.
And then for next drop is gonna be the bigger rig. This one is for your big swim bait like these.
That's a 5-inch.
These are 5-inch swim baits. So this rig and this rig is the same rig. This will be the next drop. I mean, I know guys that like to throw big swim baits on their A rig and not little one. Even though the little one produces the same, so I'm gonna put out this guy next. The only thing different is I'm not gonna include these giant blades. This is my personal one.
Yeah.
So I'm throwing in dirtier water, so I change out these blades. I mean, they thump, so they put out a bigger flash and dirtier water.
4.5 inch number size.
Well, these are size 5 willows.
It's pretty good size.
Still trying things out, Yeah. And these are they'll come with these.
The
little ones. I mean, you can always change out. They have split rings on them. You could change those out to any size blades. You pick up some blades at your local Bass Pro, Cabela's, Academies.
Yep.
I think they have those blades. You can pick up some blades and change them out to whatever size you want. You can put colorful blades on too.
Some people like that chartreuse blade, So that's. I mean, you don't have to buy these A rigs. The traditional A rigs, if you want to go to the cheaper end, because they still work too. Don't get me wrong. We just feel like these are kind of be like the upper end. That's where we're kind of coming in if we're gonna make baits. But the Yum umbrella?
Yeah, the Flash Mob Junior.
Flash Mob Junior. I think it's like $13.
Yeah.
$13 compared to $45.
But people do break arms on them. So.
Made in China. That's why. So depends on what you want. But like I said, if you're in the high pressure area, if you're in a tournament situation, which is really where this excels, in a tournament situation, where everybody's throwing A-rigs and you want to throw something a little bit different, but it's still the same thing, You want something that's more lively, right? Things like that. You might want to pick one of these up. But that's pretty much it for the night. I mean, we're well through those are my favorite 3. Anything else you want to add to it?
Did you mention a frog?
Oh, yeah. Talk about the frog. The
You have a
frog
frog at all?
kind of involves special. I don't know what kind of frog. So the hollow belly.
You should have one in there. Just grab one.
Yeah, that's cool to get in.
Yeah.
That's the dream frog right there.
So here it is. It is actually top secret
With mods.
with mods. So this is a tournament. Was it the Terminator popping frog with a size 4, I believe, Gamma size 4 EWG frog hood on it. Extra wide gap frog hood. Just put the hook on. Don't even bend them out. It's perfect. There's a bunch of gaps. Hookup ratio on this soft frog is good.
It's like 99% hookup ratio.
So
It's really good.
we throw 2 frogs nowadays. We throw this guy on windy days, and we throw the scum frog, the new
launch frog.
Yeah, launch
That
frog.
was really
Yeah,
good.
that was
Wish I
good.
had it for you, but I don't.
Really good.
These are the only 2 frogs that I would say you don't have to. The scum frog out of the package, just trim the legs and it's ready to go.
This one
has
has
a soft hooks on.
But these guys produce big fish at water temp like 55. You can skip it under trees.
It's deadly.
Under trees where the fish is gonna spawn, you can throw them like anywhere pretty much.
Yeah.
Under trees, skip boat docks.
I love throwing frogs during the spawn.
Yeah.
Early morning spawn, the frog bite. And no one tells you about that because everybody always tell you, wait till it's 70-degree water and then start throwing the frog. Wait till you have lily pads. Wait till all the vegetation starts growing, then throw it. I'm like, man, you wait that long, you too late.
Out.
Yeah, you missing out.
I like to throw it first thing on a bed.
Yeah.
Before the sunrise.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because if they're guarding like their bed, first thing on the bed with a frog in the morning.
Explosions.
Best thing ever.
Explosions, I'm telling you.
Like if your tournament stays off at like first cast at like 6:30, and 6:30 you better be there with this.
Frog.
Like you already pre-practice, you already know where your bed's at, and you're just gonna throw this guy at the bed, and the female's gonna get it. That's how we catch big fish on these frogs. I mean, you can go around fan casting. Once the sun comes up during the spawn, they don't want to touch a frog. Yeah, they don't want to eat anything. Now all they think about is producing, dropping eggs. But first thing in the morning, they chase bluegills. I think the big female, they eat right thing, like at first light. So you want to throw a frog as close as you can by that bed.
Right, because see, this is the crazy part of the spot, right? A lot of people say throw sinkos. Don't even know, sinkos, I love them. I've done great on sinkos, right? But let me ask you this question. If you know that fish is going to bite the first thing you throw in there, right? Automatically, you're going to smoke it. Would you throw a Cinco with 10-pound line, or would you throw a frog with 65-pound braid? And it's an 8-pounder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Look at those muscles.
Throw the frog. Throw it with a 65-pound braid. It's not going to miss it. And when you hook it, it's not coming off. It's not going to break you around like bushes. It's not going to break you because, say, it took off and it jumped up. Because when you set this hook, you're like to the moon. Yeah, so that's what I like about it. Yep.
Yeah. We fished the frog like early April too, pretty much.
I throw it in like 52-degree water.
Yeah, as soon as that, even like on a warm front, and the fish are up, like cruising already, I'm starting throwing frogs.
I throw it.
Like midday, I'll throw a frog.
I throw it in the water when it's still cold out and people call you crazy for throwing top water.
Yeah.
And I just smile at them because I don't even tell them that they missed 3 big good bites this morning.
But yeah. Or this guy produced a lot of chicks for us too.
I want spavin on it.
Yeah,
That
on
is
this one.
one too.
Yeah, on this one.
I want spavin.
You can go back in what,
It's
April?
probably like,
May?
last year April. Yeah.
You can watch this
Crazy frog bite. So basically it's a frog video.
Yeah, the video is on this frog.
Yeah, that exact frog.
The pattern I found that he fished.
Well, that's my frog. This is nothing but it was lightning bolts dropping, raining like crazy, and then they just couldn't resist the frog. Crazy frog bite. They came out of it. like 8 foot. I don't know. Like there's a couple of frogs I caught in there. I didn't catch on video where like there's a big lay down, and I saw a fish run off a bed, and I was kind of floating with it, and then I was like, oh no, I just scared off like 18. I'm like no, so there's a tree, and I'm like I need to go flip this tree, but then I was already holding the frog in my hands, so I just skipped under this tree, and I was bringing it up, and I thought I saw it move on the other side, so I threw it over there. I just threw it over there, and I didn't even twitch it yet. I'm just letting it sit, and all of a sudden you hear a I was like, oh shit. Oh, 18 and a half, That was good.
Those are just part bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, 18 and a half. Those are just part bucks.
Speaking of salmon, there's a tournament of salmon this Sunday.
What?
Money for bass.
Boat tournament?
Yeah, it's a boat tournament.
Yeah.
$100 though. No entry fee, no membership fees or like that. It's just $100. So you show up at like 8 o'clock. The fish from like 9 to 4. It's kind of weird times, but whatever. It is winter time. So
It'd be nice.
it would be nice.
I get our ass whooped, but it'd be fun.
I don't know what kind of boats are going to be there, but we might go fish, but we won't fish there. Or we might go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so frogs, ponds. Frogs are excellent on ponds. They will catch the biggest fish in the pond too.
Yep.
Yep.
The other
Frogs
one
are
will
awesome.
be a straight tail worm, like a cinco.
Yeah, but that's not like a true big fish. You
During
catch
the
it too,
spawn,
but
you catch everything.
During
Though.
the spawn, you catch everything. During the spawn, there's not a better bait. Oh, I haven't even shown you the ponds yet. So we changed the hook out, but okay. So this is kind of a secret tip we'll tell them. So basically, we like the yellow bellies, as you can see. I think it looks like a bluegill, but sometimes it's too bright, right?
Too bright.
Yeah, sometimes it's so bright that you have to take a Sharpie and just dot it. So it brightens up the yellow a little bit. You can see it brightens it up a little bit. And also, like I got this one from Mr. Gary Klein. He's like one of my favorite bass fishing guys. So you take the tail, you just hold it like this, and you just brush Sharpie over it, like that. Use that pattern. That.
Yeah, leg segments.
Yep. Segmented legs. Looks legit. Thank you, Mr. Gary Klein. I like that guy. That guy's pretty. Well, that's it. Coming up the last 10 minutes of the video. So let's just talk questions. Jackhammer, is it worth the money? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're missing out.
If you're not throwing Jackhammer, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's only $15 because for a Japanese bait to come to America to do good, they gotta pay for shipping. There is a patent on the jackhammer. So they have to pay like charbait their cut of like $7.
I'm sure.
So that's why the bait is so high.
That's why it's so high. But guess what? It's sold out everywhere. It's not good.
Yeah, during season you can't find the color you want.
Like that fire color right now is probably sold out.
Do we throw any Z-Man stuff? We throw quite a bit of Z-Man stuff.
I do. I throw a lot more than you do. Though.
I don't. I mean, I like elastic, but I just hate rigging them up.
Yeah. I throw the razor shad on my jackhammer.
Yeah, I do that.
And we do that probably 95% of the time over the Yamamoto because Yamamoto is just as terrible.
So like, I'll throw the jackhammer, like the jackhammer with a razor shad, like you can say 80% of the time. If I'm ripping it through grass or fishing grass, then I put that razor shad on. But if I'm fishing like cleaner bottom, I don't have to rip it as much. Then I put that the Yamamoto Zako on. I mean, they're pretty much both the same. But
you call it the personal best on Zako.
Yeah, but the Zako will kind of it just makes it a bigger profile, but it does rip. Like if you keep ripping, like if you're ripping it out of the grass, or if you set it on like a bunch of little fish, eventually that trailer gonna go. So.
But you might go through like 2 or 3 a day.
Yeah.
But it's razor shad from Z-Man. It's one and it's done for the whole day. It's good for the whole day.
Yeah, the only thing about the Z-Man products is that they don't like heat or direct sunlight. So you gotta take good care of them. Or other plastic. You can't keep it next to sinkles and stuff.
Let me show you that.
They'll be melting. Your other bait will be melting.
Alright, you guys in for a treat. This is my toolbox. I'll show you guys. This is how I keep my jackhammers. and everything else, right? That's it. So the jackhammer's over here. If it's just traditional plastic, I just stick it in here, right? That's traditional like Kitech right here. Kitech like swim bait trailer. But if it's Z-Man, it has to go in its own dedicated baggie. See that? If you don't do this, if it touches anything, it just freaking melts, and it's horrible, and you're just super disappointed. So this is like a whole side just jackhammers right here. This is a whole section of jackhammers. This and this is probably over $200. Not gonna lie. But at the same time, it has also put out so much money. So much money for
Yeah,
us.
if you're throwing it on
fun, you know?
if you're throwing it on the right setup and you're throwing it on the right line, you don't really break them off.
Yeah.
It's just
I've lost 3 in like 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather throw a jackhammer than a $26 mega bass right now. I mean, I buy mega bass, I don't really throw them. So,
That's pretty good.
Would you rather throw a mega bass or would you rather throw a jackhammer?
What about large swim baits and glide baits?
We got those too.
We got those too. Don't get me wrong. We
We
have limited experience.
Well, the thing is, we've been doing so much tournaments on the days we want to go out and fun fish. We're just like, hey, we're practicing for a tournament.
Yeah.
Or, like, I'm gonna go throw this glide bait on this point, but the wind's not blowing on it right, or this bluff is like, the wind's not blowing it right, or it's the wrong time of the year. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, those big guys, they'll throw it like all year long, but us as tournament anglers, we want to throw it at the best time only. Yeah, you know,
I feel like we don't have the best knowledge, experience with it too. It's building though. We're gonna show you guys some glide bait stripers and largemouths for sure this year.
Yeah, last year I caught a smallmouth and a largemouth on glide, but that was about it.
Don't get me wrong though, those baits have their moments, but I feel like a lot of these stories coming out about you throw a big glide bait, it's not even there to catch the fish. It's there to reveal the fish. So you go back and catch it with more traditional stuff. Or Cinco or something. If you throw it by a bush, you throw a big, like, S-waver or whatever, comes right up, this big old bass. And it ain't gonna be that big. It's like 5 pounder. 5 pounder is bigger than tournament, A 5 pounder comes out, looks at it, and then goes away. Because you'll see a lot of those, right? Well, guess what's happening tomorrow morning? I come back, I fire a single right at that bush.
Mm-hmm. I don't really go with the big bait.
Yeah, fire a single right at that bush. Because the big bait is great, but at the same time, when you're fighting the fish, it has a lot of leverage on you, so when it jumps, it could come off. I throw a single in there, I got it. Like, if he bites it, it's done. Like, I have like a 99% land ratio of single.
Yeah, so you want catch, like hook set to land ratio. That's what I call it. Like if you throw like a Texas rig, when they bite it and you got the hook set into them, when they're coming off, it's just maybe like a 5%.
Yeah.
If your line's not gonna break, if the fish is not gonna straighten your hook, and everything else is perfect,
it's got no leverage.
It's coming in the boat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even bring a net on my guy, and I land most of my fish. Yeah.
But yeah, Randy. Tournament season is right around the corner. But yeah, that's probably the reason why we don't throw it too much, because we're too hardcore in the tournament world. This year we're throttling back a little bit, so Randy will have a better chance to win because I won't be there half the time. But yeah, go win one for me, Randy. Go do it. And I hope that kind of helps everybody out a little bit, because we are pretty much out of time. So you have any last minute questions, post them up. Otherwise, we're gonna sign off a little bit early so we can go do the whole drop thing for the race. So we'll drop them on Instagram. We're gonna drop it on the Facebook page. All right. So open-ended questions now. Tournaments, stripers, whatever. We're all good. Anything goes. Oh yeah, but when it comes to stripers, I think stripers A-rig just dominates. If you want a unique bite, then I would say glide baits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It has to be such a
that simple,
it just got to be a certain timing that we got to get it down. Yeah. Maybe like closer to the shad spawn. We'll throw more.
Or at night. I've never caught a striper at night too. Now with the live, you might be catching at night. So, just kind of scrolling around. There's a pat catching at night. Yeah, I'm telling you. I think it's gonna happen. I ain't even lying. Like, hey, that's crazy. After what we saw the other day with the live, that's another topic. That might be next week. Okay, about advanced electronics and fishing. We can talk about that too, because I feel like we finally came up to speed. You could say on like everything. I feel like we got everything. Like we had exposure to everything.
Pretty much. We're just not really good to the Mega 360 yet. It was our 360 that we used.
Our 360, we just don't have a mount. We need to fabricate a mount and then get that back on. It's not the mega 360. It's just a basic 360. But it's still good enough to tell you like rock piles and like lay downs and stuff like that. It's just not the mega, which is really really good.
That's part next month.
That's probably like next month.
There's a lot of things I love this.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about this, but yep. I don't know. Well, that's pretty much it. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for hanging out. It was a pretty good hour and a half. Like I said, I wanted to do these every on Tuesday nights for the guys who've never done this before. Been with us on Tuesday nights. It's almost anything goes. It's kayaks. It's bass fishing. It's rod and reel setups. It's it could even be like prepping for tournaments. It could be like decisions on the water. It could be talking about how to create a YouTube channel. Anything kind of goes on Tuesday nights. And Thursday nights, we've reserved it. That night is strictly stripers, white bass, and hybrid fishing. At least pertaining to that. Okay? So it has to be something to do with those species. But on Tuesdays, it's anything. I think we did. I think I did one on how to win your first tournament. I did one on like what was it? I mean, I only did like 3 or 4 of them. It's kind of can't remember, but and today we're talking about big fish and big baits, but keeping it kind of cost effective, So we only did big worms, brush hogs, A-rigs, and the A-rig is expensive after it's fully rigged. Even if you don't buy ours, you buy the other one, you're still looking the Flash Mob Junior fully rigged, probably $20, right?
Yeah,
probably $20.
$4, $5 for swim baits, and then maybe a pack of hook for $5 or $4.
Yeah,
$3.
yeah, exactly. So you're still $20.
Or you can buy the one that's ready to go for like 20 I think. So.
Yeah, but that looks I heard it's Cody told me that. So, well, because he uses it on stripers. Yeah. So it might still be good, but still, it's like majority of the serious guys they throw Kitechs, some type of like upper end swim bait. So I know the Kitechs are good. I hear a lot of good things about the 6 Cents. And then a whole bunch of those Kitech copycat companies. Strike King has one. Was it Echo Pro Tungsten has one? Bass Pro Shops has them. And
Berkeley has them.
But it's all over. So just kind of play with it. And then the 8-rig thing, it's all about the weight of the G heads. I throw. Well, actually, yeah, that one's only like 8 pounds, right?
These are 3/32, I think.
Yeah, but that's Texas rig. That's the other thing about it. If you don't want to lose A-rigs, throw it on a Texas rig setup.
Yeah, like Texas rig your bait. Buy the swim bait hooks and throw it Texas rig.
Yeah, you will miss a couple of fish, but you'll thank yourself for not getting hung up on the bottom all the time.
Yeah. I mean, you could just do this. You don't have to text-pose it. Just kind of leave the hook barely hanging out. Your hook ratio is still good. Yeah, I mean, you just push it down a little bit.
Yep.
There. And then throw it.
Randy, you gonna set the live scope on the yaks? Thinking about it. I'm not sure yet. It's on the boat right now, so we've had 2 trips with it. One really wasn't a trip. One was just to make sure the electronics worked. And you got 2 bites in like 15 minutes and 30 foot of water.
1 bite.
1 bite, and we just came home. And then we actually spent the entire day with it, and it was a crazy hybrid. It was probably one of the like top 5 in terms of hybrids and A-rigs.
Yeah,
definitely top 5 day with it. So basically, we give you the quick and dirty on the the live technology. Let's say live technology. We run Mega Live. There's also Pan Optics, Live Scope, and then there's also Active Target. Right? They all basically do the same thing. Now, it's very arguable whether which one's better and which one's not, and who's going to win the stupid fight in the end, right? But just know that it allows you to see in real time. All of them do a pretty good job in real time. There's fish there, there's not fish there. The creek looks like this. There's stumps over there, there's not stumps over there. Are they rocks? Are they not rocks? Like they all show that. So as long as you're not looking for a beautiful picture, you're going to be completely satisfied with what all three technology has to offer. Okay, and that's what we were looking for. Like, I just want to know if I'm looking 50 feet that way, is there a suspended fish? Is the bank going down like this? The bank coming up like this? Is there a cut? Is there a bunch of stumps over there? Is there not stumps? And when we find them, is there, can you see your rig 50 feet up? Yeah, you could. Does it look blurry? Yeah, it does look blurry. But there's nothing chasing it, so don't worry about it, So that's our take on it. That's a quick and dirty. Ohio, only 3 hooks legal on that rig. Damn, what? I don't understand that. Like, why do they really think that you could catch 3 fish at the same time? I mean, you can, but the odds of that happening is super rare.
I haven't been caught 2 at once, other than white bass.
I've caught 2, 3, 4 times.
I haven't caught 2 bass. Yeah.
But I don't know. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take like five rigs and put them all together, so I have 15 hooks. Just so I can prove that theory, But
5 rigs times 5, bro. That's like 20.
Or 20 hooks. Yeah, I'll do 20 hooks, and just to see. I'm up the ante. The umbrella rig. The one's got 14 hooks already. I'm just gonna hang 3 of them, so that's like 40 hooks. Then we're gonna troll for like hybrids on Skytune and see if we can get like at least 5 of them done. I don't think it's possible, but we'll see. But anyways, see you guys in the next one. Like I said, Tuesday nights are reserved for bass. Thursday nights are stripers, and if you have nothing else to do, just come on by, ask random questions, and probably get answer them. I don't know, man. See, some people say like the small lakes can't sustain it, but after you've seen what the Mega Live can do, or how many fish are on Mega Live, or 4 faces on it, you didn't even catch like 1% of the population.
No, you're fishing over the most of the time.
Yeah, when you get the technology where you can see the fish, it's 1,000 fish later you catch one. So I don't know how that argument is true, like true. So if there's 1,000 people on the lake and everybody catches 1 fish, it's only 1,000 fish, right? But if you look at how much fish are in the lake, it's like 50,000 fish. It's like it's a lot. I don't think we're even put a dent in the population. I think we could train them so they get smarter and they won't bite the traditional stuff anymore. Because I know for a fact a lot of the tournament organizations, they say a certain lake is not putting out weights, right? And then the wildlife department goes and they shock it, and it's like crazy amounts of weights, but no one's catching it. There's only one reason for that. I think it's catch and release. The fishing got trained. They don't wanna eat whatever you're throwing at them.
Yeah, that's why like when a new lure or new idea pops out, all the fishes in the lake haven't seen it. They bite like crazy. He's like, "Hey, the lake is alive," and then a year later, next year, they don't bite that anymore.
What about
they do?
What about a chatterbait worm? Does that work?
Yeah, but I think it's too long. Your hooker ratio is gonna be bad.
Oh, very true. Very true. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out. It's an hour and 30 in. We gotta go do some more work for the night ends, and appreciate everybody coming by. And come back on Thursday, and we'll talk stripers.
See you guys.
See ya.